Welcome to the Black Gay History Channel. Please share this video and subscribe to this channel for more captivating content. I found a fascinating article by Black LGBTQ news website, the Russin Times, which commemorates the memory of the great woman king of Nigeria, Ahebe Agbabe, the only woman king of Nigeria during the country's colonial era. Not only did she take the throne of one of the most prominent ethnic groups in Nigeria, she also took wives as well. The author of this fascinating article, Rafeet Aliyu, goes on to relate how they found out about not only this female king and her wives, they also named the various people groups all across Africa with a history of traditional marriages between women. Ahebe Agbabe was the only reigning woman king of Nigeria during the British colonial era, particularly in the beginning of the 20th century, and she would reign for several years well into the 1920s. There's quite a bit of content about her on Wikipedia. She was born in the late 19th century in Enugu, Ezike, a large town in the Enugu state of Nigeria. Ahebe Agbabe was Igbo, and this is particularly important because the Igbo are one of the most populous ethnic groups in Nigeria. Though there are a multitude of ethnic groups and tribes in Nigeria, the top three I hear about the most are the Hausa people, who run North Nigeria, the Yoruba, who rule Western Nigeria, and the Igbo, who run the southeast of Nigeria. As a teenager, Agbabe ran away to Igala land with the Igala people to escape an arranged marriage and engaged in sex work to gain resources and social status, using men to come up in politics. She eventually rose high in the ranks in Igala land and was able to seize power back in Igbo land upon her return, eventually rising to the role of Eze, the Igbo word for king. Remember, before colonization and the Nigerian borders were established, kingdoms were based on ethnic dominance, and the Igbo saw themselves as separate from the Yoruba, the Hausa, and the Igala. Wikipedia mentions that there were many ways that Ahebe asserted her dominance as a ruler, including taking multiple wives, just like the ruling men, and she specifically would marry women coming from abusive relationships. Igbo women with a high social status or who were past childbearing age could marry another woman and extend their riches and legacy to their wives after death. Experts, including the author Ekebe, debates that homosexuality has nothing to do with these marriages and it was all about legacy and resources. But I think it's easy for people to somehow explain away how all these marriages never brought about actual romantic or sexual attraction. And I think that's a big assumption to make. Now, looking back on it, I don't know if this is necessarily a good thing, but the reason Agbabe was able to rise to power was because of her close ties and communication with the British colonizers. But the woman, Eze, fell from grace when she began to assert her kingship. A quote from Wikipedia says, Ahebe easily quelled whatever resistance existed to her kingship because of her British backing. Ahebe amassed wealth and power, but ultimately fell from grace when the extent of her multiple gender and power transgressions became too much for her community. She overreached in her ambition and violated traditions more by attending a spiritual masquerade ritual with her own mask. This ritual was only for men. The male elders and Ahebe went to court to settle the case, and the British sided with the male elders, undermining Ahebe's rule. End quote. The author of this article, Aliyu, asked the same questions that I do. It's almost impossible for me or anyone to believe that all of these women with women marriages were completely heterosexual, and it truly sounds like a homophobic cop-out we've heard in the past before in similar instances. Regardless, it's very likely that Eze Agbabe had intimate relations with one of her many wives, and even if she didn't, then likely other married women in her Igbo community did have intimate relationships with one another. Upon her death, Ahebe Agbabe was given the burial rights of a male king ruler and is worshipped as a goddess in her hometown.